Thank you. I'm running to become the next Attorney General for the state of California because, like many of the crimes we have discussed so far, in terms of the imminence of the threat to our safety, so too are crimes against our environment. And we have to recognize that it must be the Attorney General of the state of California that makes one of the loudest statements about why we cannot allow conduct that pollutes our air and our water and causes babies in our communities to have intolerable high rates of asthma go without consequence. That has to be a priority for our state, and I intend to do that as the next Attorney General of the state of California. And finally, one of the other reasons I'm running to become the next Attorney General is because I think it is she who can make one of the loudest and most clear statements about the very direct connection between public safety and public education. What am I talking about? So in San Francisco a few years ago, we had a very high rate of homicides. It was the worst in many years, and it was a big issue for all of us in city leadership. So I asked one of my staff members, would you do me a favor and do an assessment of who are our homicide victims who were under the age of 25 when they were killed? And the data came back. And it included the fact that 94% of them were high school dropouts. So then I went over to the school district and I asked the superintendent of schools, tell me what's going on. And she said, well, Kamala, you know, the few number of children we have in the public school system, 5,500 have been designated as habitually and chronically truant. And of the 5,500, 2,400 are elementary school students. So now we know those children will never be productive a day in their lives, absent some special circumstance. So I asked the superintendent, would you be so kind as to convene a meeting for me with all of the principals and administrators of the San Francisco Unified School District? And she did. And I stood before them in one of our local high schools' auditorium, and I shared with them a fact about myself. I am a product of California public schools. My first grade teacher, Mrs. Frances Wilson, God rest her soul, attended my law school graduation. I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I declared, I have decided I'm going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Now, I don't know how much y'all know about San Francisco politics, but this was a little controversial. And in fact, my staff went bananas because it was before we knew if I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race, and they were like, can't you wait? You're going to bring the wrath of everybody on us? And I said, look, I'm done. And as far as I'm concerned, I've got some political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it. Because this is an important issue, and you know what? I'm prepared to be the bad guy. And so here's what we did. I sent out, one of the few perks of being the chief elected law enforcement officer of a major city in this country is that the job comes with a badge, and then there is an artistic rendering of said badge on your stationery. And so I sent a letter out to every parent in the San Francisco Unified School District on my letterhead, showing them the connections between the elementary school truant, the high school dropout, the victim of crime, the perpetrator of crime. And in fact, a friend of mine got the letter, and he called me up, and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, and said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Right? But here's what we also did. We created what I call the DA mediation program. And so what I did is I assigned prosecutors to go and meet with the parents when the principals were meeting with them. And the prosecutors I assigned, I said, when you go over there, look really mean. And so what invariably would happen is the parent would look over and say, well, who's the mean-looking dude? And they'd say, well, that's somebody that mean DA Kamala Harris sent over because she said she's going to start prosecuting you if we can't work this out. And here's what we found. We found cases like the case of the woman who was raising her 3 children by herself, holding down 2 jobs, and homeless. She just needed some help. But by shining this infrared priority spotlight of law enforcement on the fact that her kids aren't in school, We were able to figure that out, give her access to the services that were available, and of course her children's attendance rate improved, and we dismissed the charges against her. And over the course of this initiative, we've improved the attendance rate by 20%. So, thank you. So this is some of the work that we've been doing, and this is some of the work that I believe needs to happen on a statewide basis. And like I said, I think that in many ways we're facing some of the best of times, but we're facing some of the worst of times. This summer, I gave the commencement speech at UCLA Law School, and I called up the dean of students and said, okay, tell me about who the students are so I can hopefully be relevant. And she shared with me that, of course, they entered law school 4 years ago, or applied 4 years ago, in a very different world than they're now graduating into. And, you know, the offers, they don't have offers, or their offers are being deferred, and I thought, well, this is going to be really depressing. What am I going to talk to them about? And I decided to talk about something I think we all really know, which is that in times of great crisis, we also are presented with great opportunities. And right now, in many ways, we have a situation where we are looking at probably one of the worst state budgets and systems in the state of California, but we are also looking at great promise for how we can reform what we've been doing. And, you know, I do believe as a daughter of California in that old adage, that so goes California, goes the rest of the country. And if you think about it, we are the place, again, that produces something like this, that produces a community like this, that produces technology and art and music, and has always been a place where we have been able to see what can be in a way that is not hampered by what has been. And now I believe is the time to recognize that we really want to take back that great reputation we have and do what we can do to show ourselves and our country what can be. And in that way, you all are a part of it. It's going to be a long campaign, the primaries in June, and there's no way I can do this without you. And the fact that you all are here and you've taken so much time and you're showing so much interest really, really means a lot. And I thank you, I thank you, I thank you. And I hope this is just the first time we see each other and that we will see each other often and soon again. Thank you.